Hello, everybody, and welcome to another Tech Tuesday. My name is Justin Swart, and I will be your presenter. Today, we will be having a look at some of the basics of Git. Just a note that I will not be showing you the installation process. Instead, I will be adding a link in the description to the Git Getting Started page. This should help you get set up if you are not already. I am hoping that after this video, you will have the knowledge to start using Git effectively in your environment. In this video, I will show you how to create a repository with Git. Along with that, I will also be showing you how to use all the features you need to know to get started. These include the following listed on the screen. In this first section, I will be showing you how to create a local Git repository and then add it to a remote GitHub repository. Now note that this course is not targeted towards the use of GitHub, and this information can be used with any other software like GitLab or Bitbucket. All you need to know to get started about a repository is that it is a place where data is stored, and by utilizing a tool such as Git, you can manage the stored data very easily when working in teams or alone. Okay, so to get us started, I created a folder called Git How To, and I've added some files for us to work with. Now, I want to build a repository around this folder. So in order to do this, I would run the command git init, and this will initialize the repository. After we've run this command, we can run git status to check up on our current status of the repository. Now, under this untracked files section, we would see all the files that we added to our folder. Now, these have not been added to our repository yet, since it's still in the untracked files section. Now, Git has three stages to a repository. These are workspace modified, staged, and committed in that order. To add a file or files to Git, you will need to follow these stages. After adding a file or changing it, these files will be in the workspace modified or untracked files section, and you will need to get these files into the stage section. To do this, you will need to run the following command. Now, the files to add section of the snippet can be replaced by any files that you want to stash. In this case, I will just be using the dot, which means that I want to stage all files in my current directory. Now, after staging these files, I have marked them ready to commit. After you added the files that you wanted to add to your repository, you will need to get them to the committed phase. To do this, you will need to run the git commit command. And by using the -m argument is just a shorthand way of writing the git commit message. Now this message can just be a short description of any of the work that you've done. In this case, I will just be using first commit. Now that we have some work in the root branch of our repository, I want to start by mentioning what branches are. In Git, we use branches to store the different versions of work we have, and to manage the different sections and tasks that we are busy with. This is also used to manage the work and give certain people access to manipulate only certain branches. An example of this is when you create your repository and you want to create a new feature, but do not want to do this in the root of your repository. Now, in order to create these changes safely, you would create a new branch stemming from the one that you want to save your changes on, and do the changes on this new branch. And when you are satisfied, you would merge this branch with the original branch. Now, I will be explaining merging a bit later in this video. I will also be giving a demonstration on how these branches would work a bit later in this video. Okay, so now that we have committed all of our work to our root branch, we are ready to save this work to a remote repository. Now, in order to do this, you would need to create a repository on GitHub or any other software like GitLab or Bitbucket. Now, I won't be going over how to create a repository today, but it is very simple. Briefly, you would just go to your profile and to your repositories, and then there would be a button to create a new repository, and then you can just follow the steps. So, after creating a repository, you will end up at this page. Now, to add the work you have stored locally to this repository, you need to add the remote repository URL to the current Git repository we initialized. Now, this can be done by using the git remote add command. The first argument to this command would just be the name of the remote. Now, this could be anything, but for this scenario, we're just going to be using origin. Now, the second argument would be the link to the remote repository, which we have copied from GitHub. After setting up the remote, you need to push all the work you have in your local repository to the remote repository. You can do this by using the git push command with the -u argument. Now, the first argument here would be the name of the remote that you are pushing to, which we have created called origin. The second command would be the branch's name, which in this case would be master. Now, the -u command specifies that this branch should be set up for tracking, and this allows you to pull data from this branch and any sub-branch from it, as well as push data to it. After doing this, if you go back to your GitHub page and you refresh, you should see that the repository and all the data that we had, as well as the branch, has been pushed through to this repository. And now we have all our data stored in a remote location. Now that we have our repository set up, we can create a local copy on any device we choose by using cloning. Now, to do this, you would use the git clone command. So first off, I will start by going into my documents folder and creating a folder called git how to test. I would go into this folder and I would use the git clone command with the argument being the remote URL. Now, after doing this, you should see that we have a local copy of anything happening in this repository. We have the git how to file, which is our repository. If we go into there, we can see that our files are still here and that we have all of our git functionality. And we pulled the branches as well. In this case, we just have the master branch, and you can see that the git repository is already set up locally now. Now you can do work and push to this repository and manipulate it however you choose. Before we move on to manipulating our remote repository, I want to circle back to the different stages your files go through in Git, these being workspace modified, staged, and committed. When you start off, you would think it's a bit weird to have your work go through these three different stages, but it's actually pretty useful. Let's say you were busy with multiple tasks that are not dependent on each other in different files on the same repository. Now, in one of the files, you were busy adding another function. Let's say square. And this would just return the value multiplied with itself. And then we would export it. And after we did this, we want to work on another file. Let's say here we want to add more explanations or more versions of these methods. Now, while you were busy editing this file, something happens and you need to get this some work file that you were busy with up into the remote repository. Now, you can do this if let's go to git status and see. Okay, so we have this more work file that we're still busy with and this some work file that we currently want to push up to the remote repository. Now, we can do this by staging only the sum work file. So now that we staged the sum work file, we're ready to commit it and actually push it up to our repository. And we can do that without even touching the more work file. So let's create a commit called updated operators. Now we can see that some work file has been added to this commit, but our more work file has been left alone. So we can still edit it and push it in the future. So now I can go git push origin, which is the name of our remote, and then master, which is the branch we want to push to. Now, if we go to our repository, we can see that the commit updated operators came in, and only the sum work file got updated. In this next section, I'll be explaining git checkout and branches. Now, we use branches to store the different versions of our work, and when these branches are ready, we merge them with the main branch to contain all the updated features. In this section, I will show you how to use the git branch and git checkout commands to create and navigate through your branches. Now, to view a list of all the branches we currently have, we can use the git branch command on its own. Now this will display all the branches we currently have, which in this case is only the master branch. So now, in order to create a new branch, we would use the git branch command with the branch name that we want to create as an option. Say we want to create a branch with the name of new future. Now this branch has been created, and in this branch it will contain all the work that our current checked out branch has. Now to see this branch, we can just go git branch and see that it has been created, new future. Now, in order for us to navigate through this branch, we would use the git checkout command. Now, as an option to this, we only give the branch name that we want to check out to. As you can see now, we are on the new future branch. Now, just to note that this branch will only be visible locally until you push it up to the remote repository. You can do this by using the git push command with the -u as an argument, and then specifying which remote you want to push it up to, and then giving the name of the branch that you want to push it up to, which in this case we want to push it up to its own branch called new future. Okay, cool. Now we can see that our branch has been created and it has been set up to track the remote. Now if you go back to our repository and refresh, we'll see that a new branch has been created, the new future branch. Now that we have created this branch, I just want to show you a quick way on how you can create a branch and check out to it in one line. Now, to do this, you would just use the git checkout command with -b as an argument, which means that you would create this branch and then check out to it. Now, as an option, you would give the branch name. Now, we want to call this branch new future update, which would be a clone of this new future branch. As you can see, we have now created the branch as well as checked out to it. Now, say we do not want this branch anymore, we could then navigate to our new future branch and then use the git branch, and then as the option we give the name of the branch, new future update, and then we add the argument dash dash delete to remove this branch. Now, in this next section, I'll be showing you how to use the git fetch and git pull commands. When using git fetch, you will download all the content related to the remote and the branch specified. This means that you will have all this data in your local repository, but the content will not overwrite your current work. When using git pull, you will download all the content related to the remote and branches specified, as well as update all your content. Okay, so now to explain this, I have cloned this repository to two separate folders on my computer. And in the one, I have created a few commits. So now, in this repository locally, I'm going to push all the work I have up to the main branch of the remote repository. Now, we have already set up the tracking with the -u command, so we don't need to specify that again. Okay, so now, from this local repository, we have updated our remote repository with a new commit which would be the updated test file commit. Now, if we go to our other repository we have locally, we can use the git fetch command to fetch all the information about that git or new branches that have been created, but we will not update any of our files locally. So in this instance, if we use the git fetch command, now if we go up and look at the test file we have, we can see that it still hasn't updated yet. Now, if we want this to get updated, we can just use the git pull command to pull all the data related from that remote repository into our repository and overwrite our content. So now we can see there was a change made to the test file. And now we can go in here and we can see that the line of code that we removed is not there anymore. Next, I would like to explain the git merge command. Now, when using this command, Git will update your current branch with all the related content of the branch specified. If you have work being done on a specific file and another person works on the same file, conflicts may occur. This means that Git does not know which of the two changes is correct, and you will have to manually specify which of the two changes you want, if any. Now, a basic example of the git merge command would be, let's say we create two branches, one called new future and another branch called new future 2. Now let's check out to the new future 1 branch, and while we're on this branch we would like to create changes on the some work file. Let's say we want to remove the multiply function. Here we go. We can do that. Status. Okay. We can add all that work. We can commit this. Now, if we check out to our other new future branch, the new future 2 branch, we can see that it still has the multiply function. Now, let's say I want to get the work from that new future 1 branch into this new future 2 branch. Then I would use the git merge command. Now, how I would do this is I would use git merge and then specify the branch I want to merge into this one, which in this case would be the new future one branch. So as you can see, it updated this new future 2 branch of mine with the commits from the new future 1 branch. Okay, so now let's look at an example of when a conflict would occur. So again, let's go to the new future 1 branch. Now in this branch, I would like to go to this add function, and I would like to add another option here to add a third number. Now this will add a third number together with the rest. So let's save this in this current branch. And now let's go to our new future 2 branch. Now let's say in this branch I was also busy working on the add function. I added a third and a fourth variable to add. So here I would go add the f and g variable, and I would like to save this commit. Now let's say in the new future branch somebody did other work that I also want to have in my branch. I would then proceed to merge that new future 1 branch with this one. Now as you can see, immediately there's a conflict. So here you can see that your changes has the A, B, F, G variables, and they added them together, but the incoming changes on the same function has an ABC and ABC added together. So now you can see that Git does not understand which one of the changes you want to accept. So you would have to manually go and say, okay, now all the other work that did not have conflicts I want to accept, but in this case, I would only like to accept the work that I did on this function. Then you would go and remove that, and this would be registered as a normal workspace modified stage again. Then you would stage these changed files, and you would commit this as a merge conflict. Now, as you can see, our branch is up to date again, and no merge conflicts are visible. In this next section, I am going to be explaining the git stash command. Now, what this command does is it takes all your unstaged and staged changes and saves them locally. This will then allow you to continue with any other work and later come back to finish your stashed work. The changes stashed can be used in any branch you check out to locally. And this is done by using the git stash pop command. This will take the latest work that you've stashed and apply it to the current branch. Alternatively, you could use the git stash apply command to update your branch with the stash change without removing the content from the stash. This allows you to apply the same stash data to other branches. One issue when using the git stash command is that it will not stash untracked files. Now, these are the files that you have added to your repository for the first time and have not set up tracking. To stash these files, you will need to use the -u option. Now, this specifies that you want to stash untracked files as well. Now let's go to an example of the git stash command in action. Let's say I'm busy on this new future 2 branch and I want to update this add function again. We will just be changing it back to normal. Now, while I'm working on this file, I want to actually go to another branch and first do a few changes there. But I do not want to lose or commit the current work that I have. Now, what I can do then, as you can see when I run git status, I have this modified file. Now, I can also add this to the staging section, and then I can run git stash, and now it will tell me it saved the working directory and index state. So now we have work in that stash. We can do this, we can check our stash by using the git stash list command. So now we can see here is the current work that we have stashed. Now I can go and check out to the new future 1 branch. I can do some changes here. Say again, just change this. Okay, now we can add this work, and then we can also commit it. Again, updated addition operator. Now, after we finished our work here, we can then check out back to our new future 2 branch. And then we can see all the work here as reverted from the changes that we made to it. But we stashed our work, so we didn't lose all that progress. Now we can just go, while checked out in this branch, we can still check out our list, our list of stashes, which in this case is only the one. Now we want that one stash saved to update our current branch. We can do this by popping it using the git stash pop command. Now, as you can see, we have changed the file back to what it was when we stashed it. Now, to move on to the final section, we will be reviewing the git reset command. Now, the git reset is a pretty complex way of undoing changes. We will only be going through the basics of how to use this command. The git reset command has 3 different levels of invocation, these being soft, mixed, and hard. These correspond to the different stages of Git explained earlier: working directory, staging, and committed. Now, I will be explaining the 3 different ways of using this git reset with examples. Now, the git reset hard command will remove all your local changes and reset it to the latest content pointing to the commit that you specified. If no commit was specified, your work will be reset to the latest commit in the branch head. Now, to demonstrate this, we could make some changes to this file again. And okay, let's say we just want to change the name to div. Let's change it to div. Now we can see we have that work. We want to add that to our staging. And then we would like to commit this work and say changed name of division. Now, if we go to our git log, we can see we have this latest commit, which is called changed name of division. Now, we would like to completely scrap this commit and rather revert back to this one, the updated addition operator, which was the one prior to this one. which would just mean we would like to change the name back to divide. So now we can just copy the ID of the commit we want to reset to, and then we can use the git reset hard command and then specify the ID of the commit we want to roll back to. And as you can see now, we have reverted our changes back to the previous commit. Now, if you go to the git log, you will see that the commit we used to change the divide name has been completely removed, and we have reset back to the previous commit. Now all that data has been lost. So this command, you have to be careful when you use it. Now, moving to the git reset mixed command. Now, this will change all of the staged changes you have back to being unstaged or untracked. This allows you to commit other work while working on new changes for the files you unstaged. So this means that if I work on this folder again, and let's say we remove the square function here, we can go and we can see from our status, okay, we have this file that we modified. We would like to add this to our staging section. As you can see, the file has been staged now. Now suddenly we realize that we do not want to stage this file because we still want to modify it. Now what we can do is we can use the git reset mixed command. But by default, if you just use git reset, it defaults to the git reset mixed command. So you can just go git reset, and then what this will do is it will take all your staged work and it will put it back to being modified. If you go to git status, you can see the example. Now your files will not be staged and you can edit them again and then not worry about having to commit them right away. Now lastly would be the git reset soft command. Now what this does is you can reset back to any commit that you specify, but instead of losing all the work, all that data would become available to commit, and you will not have lost all that work. An example to this would be, let's say we have this some work file that we edited just before. We can add that and commit it. Now we can go and see our git log. We can see all the commits that we have, but we want to go back to, let's say, the changes made to functions commit. But we do not want to lose any of our other commits data because we still want to verify that we want to maybe keep some work in those commits and not lose everything. Then we can go and say git reset soft and specify the commit we want to reset to. Now, when I go to git status, you will see that all the work that has been modified has been changed to the commit state. So you did not lose any of the files or the work that you did. That would be all that I could share you guys about the basics of Git. Thank you guys for watching, and I hope you can take some of what you learned and put it to good use.